Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this morning's press conference. My name is Leslie Ann Johnson.
Only. On behalf of my colleague PSS and the Minister, we are very pleased to update you on the status of the construction sector. I apologize on behalf of Minister Bowen, who is now at another meeting and therefore cannot be with us here today. Let me take this opportunity as well to say thank you to my members, my team, the team members of the construction task force. And we know that we had representation from the public sector and also the private sector. And the recommendations presented to you today are therefore a joint effort from both sectors. First and foremost, we want to update on the application process to resume work. We are very pleased to know that a request is made to the Ministry of ICT to upload the application form on the government website. The application for resumption of construction work involves that contractors must complete a form, the date, the name of the contractor, the contact number, whether it is a mobile number, a phone number at home, or email address, the type of project, which indicates if it is residential, commercial, excavation, whatever the type of the project is, the location of the project, the number of workmen on the project, and then the signature. If there's any additional information, it can be placed in a cover letter. And we expect that this information be submitted by email to ps@moiid.gov.gd and copied to cto@moiid.gov.gd. The process is being managed by myself as the Permanent Secretary and the Chief Technical Officer, Mrs. Najar Andal. I must at this point take this opportunity to apologize because the press release we submitted yesterday didn't provide additional information for the Ministry of Carriacou and Petit Martinique, but following this meeting, we will issue an additional press release. The reason is that we would like to highlight the road offices and the different points in Carriacou where people can go for the application form. I will confirm that the process is the same. So the question is being asked, is it that construction work resume for Carriacou and Petit Martinique as well? The answer is yes. The forms to be used will be the same, but we want to ensure that it reflects the Ministry of Carriacou. However, even when they email it to Carriacou, it must be copied to the Ministry of Infrastructure Development in Grenada. And the reason for this is that we keep a registry of all applications. I want to take this opportunity to inform that yesterday, the first day of the resumption, we received 36 applications, 23 walk-in applications at the ministry, and 13 by email. And this only reflects what I received at the ministerial complex, the 4th floor. We didn't add those that we expect coming in at the road offices as yet. For this morning, until 10 o'clock, we received 29 applications. So you would say for the first 2 days, so far we have 65 applications. To us, this is an indicator that the process is appreciated by the contractors. For all the 36 applications we received yesterday, we acknowledge them all, and I am pleased to announce that the inspection team commenced this morning. We give the commitment that the inspection will be 24 hours after application, and we follow through with that commitment. And so some of the sites will be inspected today. We also developed what we call a certificate for resumption of work. So once they inspect the site and the site is in compliance with the COVID-19 guidelines for the construction sector, they will issue this certificate right away. We do not want to have any delay for any contractor once they comply. The question is then being asked, what are we looking for? We developed a checklist which was also released yesterday. One, the site must have established a hand washing station because we comply with the Safe Hand Challenge. The site must have kits for every worker. And that is why on the application form we are asking how many workmen will be involved in the project. And the minimum of the sanitation kit is at least 2 masks and hand sanitizers. If you have more, it is good, but that is the minimum request. And so we want to see that in place. The inspection team has that checklist this morning, and once in all the 5 categories of the checklist, they can write approved or in place, then it is easy for them to issue the certificate to resume work. I also would like to call upon the contractors who did not apply yet, and I want to repeat the email. For those who have emails, please submit your application to ps@moiid.gov.gd and copy to cto@moiid.gov.gd. For those who do not have email, we made arrangement at all the road offices at Beauséjour, Guelph, Victoria, Sortes, Pearls, and St. David's, that you could walk in and ask for the application form. It is a simple form, 1 page. Once you complete that in 24 hours, we will inspect your site. And once you have all things in place, you will get permission to resume work.
Thank you very much, PS. A lot of information there from you. Thank you very much. We also have with us the Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Francis Martin. I don't know if there are a few words that you would like to say. And we have just been joined by Dr. Bert Braffett. He is a member of the COVID-19 subcommittee.
Thank you very much, Leslie, and thank you for the patience of our population and everyone who've contributed to where we are at this time. I will get straight to it. I will be joined by Dr. Braffett later on to give some more on the guidelines, but I am aware that there are some nervousness, or there is nervousness among persons as it relates to the risk of COVID. I expect those nervousness feelings. I expect persons to be conscious or worried. But what I can say is that so far from our epidemiological standpoint and from looking at our COVID response and also looking at the results that we've had, I am satisfied that we are at the tail end of the current COVID response in terms of infections. And because of this, I feel confident that we are in a good place to resume construction and other forms of work. It is important, however, from a ministry and a health standpoint to reiterate the cause of the transmission of COVID. The transmission of COVID has nothing to do with people being in each other's presence. The transmission of COVID has nothing to do with whether or not you open construction sites or no. It has to do with persons' personal behaviors as it relates to the COVID. And so what I would like to do is to encourage people who are in the construction field and who are working to remember those tenets, remember those things we've said from the beginning, that wearing of a face mask is very, very important to prevent droplets. Frequent hand washing, absolutely necessary, not touching your hands and your face. So in other words, if you're on the construction site, and I'm quite happy to learn about the basic requirements or the minimum requirements at the construction site, which everyone has to ensure that each worker has their kit. So I want to allay the fears of the public that we have looked into our COVID response. We've looked into the health and the results and the testing. We have done that, and I'm satisfied that we're able to start and start working again. What I would end saying is that our mechanism, our approach to the opening of the construction is what I would call mitigation and containment. That means the Ministry of Health, we are now preparing for mitigating the effects and containment if there is an additional COVID positive person. So we are improving and increasing our competence in our contact tracing staff. We're increasing our numbers of volunteers to be able to do quick and aggressive and accurate contact tracing in the need that any other positive test shows up. And we are ready for that. And so this is what we're going to be doing as we're going forward. Mitigation and dealing with any of the effect in the event that we have an additional case. So this is where we're at. This is where we're ready to work with. And we really hope that everyone will take the precautionary measures necessary, because I believe that as we continue to go forward, it will be impossible to avoid being in close contact from time to time. So our job is to increase our capacity to deal with it in the event that it happens.
Dr. Martin, thank you so very much. Let me go back to PS, because I know, Dr. Martin, you would have to leave, so we will bring in Dr. Bert Braffett. PS, is there a cutoff point for the application process? How is this going to be done, just to ensure that we accommodate everybody?
The application process that started yesterday will continue in the coming weeks. As I mentioned before, we are doing this to ensure that we have a registry. Now, I just want to repeat the type of projects that we will that we anticipate to receive. We have ongoing projects, contractors who were already on site while COVID-19 happened and they were closed. So once they have planning approval, they can resume. Excavation works can continue. Interior finishing works, you might have a home renovation, a kitchen, a yard, a bathroom. These could continue. Special projects from our ministry, even our small house renovations and small building projects. All these type of projects can continue to apply to the ministry. And we don't have actually a cutoff point. We anticipate that maybe within a month we might have all applications, but at that time we are working together with the physical planning unit as well. So projects without planning approval cannot recommence. They must go through the normal process to get application approval. But all those who received application approval, and I must commend the contractors who came yesterday, those who had approval but they didn't start, when they made the application, they came with their evidence from the physical planning unit to say, well, I have planning approval. And this is very encouraging because we see that the contractors have the mind to comply with the process and they're trusting the process. We didn't have any problem with that at all. I just want to take this opportunity as well to remind the contractors again what we expect of the site management, because as Dr. Martin said, we need to be able to mitigate the risk of the spread of the COVID-19. And so site management is very, very important. Contractors must establish hand washing station in all construction sites, at all construction sites. The contractors must ensure that each worker is provided with a safety kit that include at least 2 masks and a hand sanitizer each. The construction site must be cleaned at the end of the working day as per the cleaning guide. And all waste and disposable equipment must be securely disposed of. When we inspect the site, with the checklist we have, we will be looking at these issues to ensure that when we say the site is approved, it is in compliance. So I want to repeat it: the safety kits, the hand washing stations, safety information on site so that persons know what to do if they feel in any way that would indicate that they maybe have COVID-19. Physical distancing must be enforced, and the contractor must ensure, especially if they work inside a home, that there is sufficient ventilation. Now, I want to pause here a bit because a general construction site and a home as a construction site are two different things. We want to call upon homeowners. If you want to do a kitchen, if you want to do a bathroom, if you want to do the yard, please also register, because the contractor is not only working on your project, he's visiting other sites, he's exposed to other persons. And if something happens and we have to do contact tracing, if we don't have your application, we would not know that he was visiting your premises. And so the homeowner has to work together with the contractor to ensure that they comply with COVID-19 guidelines and ensure that the sites are cleaned daily with disinfectant solutions as prescribed. Now, many of the contractors that came to the ministry yesterday, we showed them what we have using for our ministry, the 75% alcohol-based sanitizing solution. We recommend that highly. Some indicate to us that when they go to the supermarkets, they find one with 70%. That is also useful. But we want to encourage them to make sure that they have all the solutions necessary, the kits, the face covering, and everything in place for the worker. Between Monday and Wednesday, we give contractors permission to prepare the sites. Those who already have hand washing stations and other things, we will give them the go-ahead. But if they are not prepared, please prepare so that we can commence the inspection for the new sites on Thursday.
Thank you very much, PS. Dr. Bert Braffett is here with us this morning, a member of the COVID-19 subcommittee. Dr. Braffett, any words you would like to express this morning?
No, just to reinforce much of what I've heard this morning, and to point to the importance of it, basically, in that from the time an individual leaves home, that individual must be conscious of the fact that they're stepping out into an environment where potentially they can be exposed to the infection, because, well, indeed within your home, but more especially outside of your home, you do not know the status of any person. So you have to assume that every person, it could be potentially infectious. And how are you going to protect yourself? You're going to protect yourself first and foremost by adhering to all the points that have been raised before, such as good hygiene, ensuring that you keep your hands tidy. We know that within a workplace that's not going to be practically possible, but the cement is not going to give you the COVID virus. But keeping your hands dirty in other settings, if you go to a washroom or something like that, and you're touching a doorknob and it was potentially infectious, that's where you're going to get the bug. So good hygiene all the way through, frequent washing of hands if you're not actually involved in your work activities, for instance, before your meals. And then there are certain points at which you'll be at risk. When you are traveling, if you're traveling in a bus or in a van, make sure that it is not seating more than the recommended number of suggested individuals. When you come to the workplace and you're having lunch, for argument's sake, there's a tendency at lunch periods for people to congregate closely, and you want to make sure that you're having that 6 feet distance from your colleagues. And at all times, other than obviously when you're eating, you have on that mask. I think the mask is going to prove in the long run to be one of the most, yes, you can get the bug from touching areas that are contaminated, but it is often that people who are feeling well, who might be carrying the virus and who are spreading it around, and unknowingly so. And if you're in touch, if you're close to them and you're inspiring, some of their droplets, you're going to be at high risk of contracting it. So the use of the mask, and not the mask, let me say something about the mask, not the mask done under the chin. That is not going to help. That you want a mask properly applied to your face, and you're keeping it on. You can keep on a cloth mask, which is made from 2 layers of cotton or so, and you can wear that and wear it comfortably through the day without feeling in any way distressed. It will take some use to, but people should already have been starting to get used to it, because I know a number of people be going outside with it, and after a time you won't even recognize that you have it on. So keeping that mask on throughout the day, that is perhaps one of the most important things that I can stress to individuals. And obviously, not using the mask when it is dirty. It has to be changed according to the frequency with which it was suggested that it should be changed, or if it gets particularly soiled, for that matter.
Thank you, Dr. Bud Brafitt. Colleagues, any questions as yet? In the meantime, P.S., I just want us to stress the importance, based on what you've just said and based on what Dr. Brafitt has also said, in terms of ensuring that we maintain, some sort of healthy standard. Just stress the point for us, what can happen if these regulations are not followed by contractors?
Well, everything that we do within the COVID-19, as response to the COVID-19 pandemic, is backed by regulations. And so I would like to encourage the contractors to comply, because when there's no compliance, then we would have to apply the regulations, and you will find yourself in a position where we will close the project site, and then the contractor can be fined. And I don't think that is really what we would like to do. Based on the national address by the Prime Minister, the construction sector is asked to lead the reopening of national economy, because the construction sector is a sector premise, it is investment-led. And so once we open, it will impact in a very positive manner the national economy. As you know, the multiplier effect of the construction sector is very well known in Grenada. The question comes, what will happen, for example, for food vending? The guidelines advise that we recommend one vendor. So we would not allow different vendors to go to a construction site. And we call upon the contractors to manage their site very carefully in that regard. The reason is that you would not like to have a gathering of persons. As the health officials already said, the social distancing, the physical distancing is still in effect. So even as we open the sites, we are working together with the contractors to manage the site, so you don't have different food vendors, stations close to the site. One preferred vendor will be allowed. I want to stress it that people asked yesterday, PS, if we don't comply, what is the fines? The Ministry of Legal Affairs is the department that is working on the regulations. So I think at that point it will be announced what is the fine. I don't have that information at this moment, but I would like to call upon them to comply, because I would not like to see the opposite happen, that we have to close a site as we want to spur economic activity. So I would like to call upon them to comply. I want to reiterate, though, the transportation protocol, as Dr. Brafitt said, remains in effect. So we do not want to see buses and trucks with a lot of construction workers, because they say, well, we open. And because we open, we can do anything. Yes, we are open for business, but let us comply with the safety guidelines, with the health guidelines, with the hand washing guidelines, and with the transportation protocol. I want to take this opportunity as well to remind all contractors that in the management protocol of sites, which we discussed and which was released yesterday as well, every site must have a COVID-19 response plan. What does that mean? If you observe that a worker is not feeling well, they're displaying symptoms, there must be a plan to report it to the Ministry of Health and to also report it to medical personnel in the area. The reason is that while we reopen the economy, we want to inform the nation, safety comes first. Life comes first. And so contractors will be asked when we inspect the site, where is your COVID-19 response plan? Do you have a flyer on site to remind persons to reinforce all the COVID-19 protocols? For example, safe hands, simple things. Even in our ministry here, as you walk into the Ministry of Infrastructure, we would see a sign where we say we don't shake hands, a reminder to persons who visit us how we want to comply with COVID-19. I'm just giving an example of that. For example, on the lobby of the ministerial complex, we have now a bottleless fountain, so persons don't have to press the thing to get water, but we want them to feel safe and comfortable. We also have like a hand sanitizer. You don't have to press it. It is automatic. We're doing these things to reinforce the compliance with the COVID-19 protocol. And if we can do it, we just want to call upon the contractors to do that as well. The site management is very critical. We want to see economic activities increased, yes, but in a reasonable and appropriate manner.
Thank you very much.
Perhaps I would like to add a few points there. The question of if you're sick, point out that many weeks ago at the beginning of the pandemic, we were just talking about shortness of breath, cough, essentially, cough, shortness of breath, and fever. That's some of the main symptoms. But now it has become evident that there are a myriad of other presentations that a person can show up with. And if a person is feeling anyway unwell, if they have any abnormality of the smell, of the taste, if they start to have diarrhea. Now, diarrhea will still be caused by a whole range of other problems. But if they have diarrhea, they need to stay home. Don't come out to work. Or if folk within the family are feeling weak with diarrhea, they should report it immediately to the ministry and don't come out to work, because it might mean they have somebody infected in the household. That might have to be checked over the next 2 to 3 days before they can feel free. That way we can reduce it. You have a symptom, any of these types of symptoms, you need to call in immediately to the health authorities to let them know what's happening. Someone will be into you pretty promptly to check out the situation and then hopefully give you all clearance that you can go back to work. Another factor I want to allude to is the question of when the folk leave work. Now, the construction industry has a number of young people, and they will go often, many folk will go, and they will want to line with your friends. You can go online with a small group, just 3 or 4 people, properly spaced, but always wearing masks. Folk might want to put on the mask at work, and when they leave work, and if your other colleagues are wrong and not wearing, you have to be strong enough to know that that is in your best interest, because there's a macho tendency that youngsters will feel, oh, I can't get this. So my colleague's not wearing it, I'm not going to wear it. But you know to protect yourself, keep your mask on. Because if you keep your mask on and one of your contemporaries or your friends happen to be positive, you reduce significantly the chance that you will acquire that virus. If your mask is under your chin, you are just as much risk as not having it on.
Thank you, Dr. Braffett. Nancy McGuire, good morning.
Good morning. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, we're hearing you. Go ahead.
Thank you. Good morning from the Grenadian Voice. I have a few questions. First to the Permanent Secretary. Regarding the inspections, who is doing the inspections? Are these all officers of the ministry, or you had to call on people in the private sector to assist in this? And secondly, who are the members of the subcommittee? And for Dr. Martin, I just wanted to see if we could get a breakdown on the number and types of testing we've completed, the status of our cases, how many contact tracer volunteers do we have, and do they have to undergo any training, and what are our plans for more testing?
Thank you very much for the question. The inspection at this time is being done by staff of the Ministry of Infrastructure Development, the engineering team. So we have road officers and building technology technicians, staff of the ministry doing the inspection. So I think that is question number one. Question number two is very easy to answer as well. The chairman of the task force is Gregory Bowen, the Minister for Infrastructure Development, Public Utilities, Energy, Transport, and Implementation. The members of the team are representing the private sector. We have Dr. Anselm Latouche, Mr. Mike Quinn, Mr. Nigel Rennick. Representing Physical Planning Unit, we have Mr. Carl Frederick. Representing the admin section of the ministry is myself. And we have representing the Ministry of Finance, we have Dr. Kelvin George. Representing the Bureau of Standards, we have Mr. Robert Medford. I think I didn't miss anybody. Representing the Ministry of Environment, we have Mrs. Aria St. Louis.
Thank you, Piers. Nancy, can you just repeat the final question for Dr. Braffett?
I got the question. Unfortunately, I can't, Ms. McGuire, I can't give you an answer to a precise answer to it. I don't have those statistics closely at hand, but I can comment on the question of contact tracing and to inform that the contact tracing has been boosted up significantly. I know Dr. Mitchell, working along with Dr. Martin and Dr. Charles, they have developed further more contact teams and also put in place mechanisms so that if we were to get a number of outbreaks in a number of different centers, hopefully we have enough manpower to be able to get in and do the contact tracing. It requires numbers. You see in New York now and other places in the USA, they're talking about, of course, they're dealing with much huger populations. They're talking about thousands of contact traces. Well, we have gone into a few scores of contact traces. They would have be on board and would have been doing some training so that they would be equipped to be able to handle any situation that develops, unless it was tremendously, out of hand, which we hope won't happen. So we are confident overall that we have the situation vis-a-vis COVID under control, but we understand that we can see hotspots developing around from place to place, and especially you see what's happening in South Korea, you see what's happening in Germany, where people are assembled, that the risk is still going to be there, that you can get a flare. I think in one case it was a nightclub, but we don't have any nightclubs that are open, so that shouldn't arise here. But wherever people are congregated, and this get back to the question of youngsters congregating around on the blocks, if you get 10, 15, 20 of them congregating there for hours, that is going to be tend to be a risk factor if one of them tends to be sick.
Thank you.
Is sick, I should say.
Thank you. Linda Straker, good morning.
Good morning. I hope everyone is hearing me clearly. I have a number of questions. My first question has to go to Ms. Jessamy. I would like to know what is the role of the Physical Planning Authority in as we go forward and with these inspections? And secondly, would the size of the project matter? If a person decides to do some addition now to their home, where it would employ at least one person, would they also have to get an application approved from the ministry? My question for Dr. Martin, but I see he has gone, but I hope Dr. Braffett could assist. And recent days on the weekend, I saw notices of private places offering COVID tests. I would like to know who approved these people to offer tests? Where did they source their kit? And will the data they receive be shared with the Ministry of Health? That's it for now.
Thank you, Linda. Yes.
Thank you very much for the question. What is the role of the Physical Planning Unit? At this point, the Physical Planning Unit has the role to approve new projects. In the presentation I did, I indicate that, for example, projects without planning approval cannot commence because that is a standard procedure. So it is very good to have Mr. Carlton Frederick representing PPU to know that if it is a new project without any approval, then what I would recommend to this contractor is that continue to submit all the relevant documents to the physical planning unit so that it is approved. Once the project is approved, then it comes through the resumption of work application process. So we will consider it. In terms of inspection at this time, we do not have teams, joint teams. We only have the staff of the ministry to check the site. I must say that following resumption of work, there's another inspection. I didn't speak to that up to this point. After a contractor would have complied with the guidelines and we reopen the site, then we have what we call the monitoring of the site, which is part of the site management, because we do not want contractors to only believe that they will be compliant just to reopen the site and they will not see us again. So once we reopen the site, so once we issue the certificate of resumption of work, then they go to a next process where we will then continue to monitor the site to ensure that they remain compliant. In that phase, we will collaborate with other ministries as necessary based on the number of applications we'll have. Just for your information, from yesterday to today, we have 65 applications, so it is manageable for our team to do so. And also, we will put a team together for Carriacou. So the idea is that we collaborate with other ministries, and once that is finalized, we will announce it as well. Your second question, size of project, does it matter? Yes. The reason is that even if you do a kitchen or a bathroom or a small yard project, the contractor is important. He's working for you. He's working for 5, 6, 7 other persons. He's not on your site only. And the registry that we have is a very simple form to say the date that he applied, what is the name of the contractor, how many persons will be involved, what is the location of the site. Why is that important? In case that same contractor fell ill or somebody he's working with, we would know in terms of contact tracing to provide the Ministry of Health with relevant data and information to say, check this place, check this place. Persons call me from the night the Prime Minister did the national address. Oh, I'm doing a kitchen, I don't need to apply PS Jessamy. Yes, we would like to encourage you to comply with the process, because if something happened, you would not have been in our register, we will not be able to trace that. So it's not that we would like to mind your business. I want to be very frank. We just want to make sure that we keep you safe. And if we have the data, we can say safely that for the period of May, we have, for example, X amount of applications. We know the contractors we're dealing with. In case there is an emergency or somebody is not feeling well, there are symptoms of COVID, we know exactly which site we have to go to do contact tracing. So please advise your friend, please advise homeowners that they can, it's a simple email. You send to ps@moiid.gov.gd, say, I wish to resume work. It involves 1 person, 2 persons, and that is it. If it is a very small thing, we will come check it quickly, give you the resumption so you know you're compliant. The best way to stay safe is if all of us comply. I hope it helps.
Thank you, PS. I think the final question was for Dr. Braffett.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, the very question you posed, I was involved in a meeting yesterday where that matter was raised, and I know it is under active investigation by the ministry. So the ministry officials, led by the chief medical officer, who will be the one responsible, the main person responsible for the standards in this matter, will be going in to see where the test kits were purchased, what body has certified them, how the tests are being done, etc. So it is under active investigation.
All right, colleagues, anybody else with any questions? All right, it seems as though they've exhausted their questions. So, PS, I'll give you an opportunity to say some final words, and then we'll go to Dr. Braffett.
Well, let me take this opportunity to I'm pleased to take this opportunity to thank the GIS and the Ministry of Health, the COVID-19 Task Force, and also the COVID-19 Task Force on Construction for the opportunity to work with us as a ministry and for us to be at this point. Yesterday was a very good day for us as a ministry to receive applications where persons demonstrate that they are willing to comply with the process, that they are willing to trust the process, that they are willing to work with us. We didn't receive any call where people would feel as if they are not happy with the process. I know that persons are asking questions, yes, about the size. If I do want to do a little thing, should I? And the answer remains yes. The reason is that the registry we now establish of contractors will be helpful in the event that somebody displays symptoms. We have credible information to provide to the Ministry of Health to facilitate contact tracing. That is the main reason. So we want to reopen responsibly. We want to ensure we have resilient infrastructure to contribute to national economy, to see growth, to ensure that the responsibility given to us to lead the reopening of the economy, that we do it and do it well. I would really like to see that the contribution of our sector, even though we anticipate that it will decline, that we will not be close to zero, but we can really implement as well as we started. When we commenced the year, the challenge, the implementation challenge we accept from our minister was 85%, at least the median average of project implementation. Even though we have COVID-19, we do not back away from that challenge. We want to push ahead in collaboration with the private sector, in collaboration with all the professional associations within the sectors to ensure that we come as close and even surpass our own expectations. So I call upon all contractors, continue to collaborate with us. We truly thank you for your cooperation so far. Thank you.
Thank you very much, PS. Dr. Braffett?
Yeah, just to say that I think throughout this last few months, couple of months, the country has been very cooperative and very responsible in the way in which they've approached what in many instances would have been very difficult circumstances, having to be locked down for days at a time. And I think one would wish and hope that people will continue in that same good sense. It is opened up, but it is not opened up to a point where we can get back to what we were doing before. It will be many months, minimum of a year before we could even think of getting back to that stage. And some people may argue we may probably not ever do just what we were doing before. Some of the bad practices we had before, we need to throw those out through the door in any event. So we need to continue to be focused. My appeal especially to the younger ones to be aware of the dangers of this virus. There's nothing that you hear from day to day that makes you think that it is anything less than something to be very serious about. There's a lot of fake news that goes around and people are worried about where the virus comes from. This is not the issue. The issue is it is here. It can significantly impact upon your health, your family's health, the nation's health. Follow the guidelines, and we've done well so far. We don't have a single death. All the people who acquired it have gone home and they are doing well. This is the way we need to keep it. And once we stay focused and follow the guidelines, we will be on the right path.
Thank you very much. So we say a special thank you to Mrs. Marina Jessamy, the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry for Infrastructure Development, Public Utilities, Energy, Transport and Implementation. And she's also a member of the COVID-19 Task Force on Construction. We also say thank you to Dr. Bert Braffett, a member of the COVID-19 Subcommittee, and as well to the Acting Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Francis Martin, who was here earlier on. And of course, as we mentioned, the announcement was made by the Honorable Prime Minister on Sunday during his national address of the recommencement of construction. And they've been outlining the processes that you will have to undergo just to ensure that that structures remain in place, and of course, while we do what we have to do, we are as safe and as healthy as possible. Thank you so much, colleagues, for being with us, and all those who have viewed on the channel or on Facebook as well. Thank you so much. Have a great day, everybody.
Stay up to date with all that's happening with the new national party, NNP. Send us a message via text or WhatsApp on 405-8683 with your name, email, and constituency. Stay in the know with NNP. Get updated.
I say, nah, man. Wood. Yo, this is the Dan Man Lindy telling you to be COVID-19 safe. Stay home. That way we could play a mass sooner rather than later. Everything will come to pass. You know the tingo. Mass must play. How you mean?
5 things you need to know about self-isolation. Stay home. If you are told to self-isolate, it means staying at home, not going to work, school, or other public places, and you should not have any visitors. Separate yourself. If you live with others, then you need to stay in a well-ventilated bedroom with the doors shut. If you have to share a bathroom, then use it after everyone else. Don't share towels and toiletries, as this may put others at risk. Call ahead. If you develop symptoms such as a fever or cough, then seek advice first by calling the Ministry of Health's hotline at 538-4787 or 458-4787. Please do not show up at a medical center or hospital, as this may put others at risk. Take care with waste. If you test positive, your waste should be double bagged and disposed of separately. Create a buddy system. If you live on your own, you can plan with friends and family to check in with each other and run essential errands if one becomes sick. Once sick, they should leave groceries on the doorstep. Why it's important. COVID-19 causes a mild illness for 4 out of 5 persons. Self-isolating will help protect the older generation and those who may have underlying health problems from getting infected.
Come on, let's conquer. Oh, I will conquer. Rise up and conquer. Conquer them. Tell them no retreat, no surrender. I shall fight till the end of days. I was born as a Makai warrior, and the Almighty God my blade. Fire burn all Satan carrier. Father loose all shackles and chain. This morning first thing as I wake up, King David turns some to the brain. Don't let your courage go down, keep it up. And if your heart rip up and stitch it up, don't let your faith them fall, pick it up. When my cup was empty, God fill it up. Don't take the devil contract, rip it up. And if your bad mind people to go meet it up, pass me the Congo drum and let me beat it up. God on my side, me no give it up. So no weapon that form against us shall not prevail. And no man that rise against us, that war they shall never win. Cause I will conquer, oh I will conquer, yes I will conquer, conquer them. Come on, let's conquer, oh I will conquer, rise up and conquer, conquer them. Thank you, Father. I want to say thank you, Lord. You're everything, Father. Thank you. Father, you alone shall guide me. No man shall lead my path. In the wind I hear your quiet whispers, and you heal my broken heart. Even some of my friends turn enemies, and they pray for right to feel. And remember you gave us your only begotten son, but we gave him the wound of life. Send down your warriors with the hello. They carry down to the end of days. No matter how the devil try trick me, unto you my soul I will give. Father, I know this time storm is coming. I can see the high tide rage. Without you there is no rudder. Could it be that we is my say? No weapon that form against us shall not prevail. And no man that rise against us, that war they shall never win. Because I will conquer, oh I will conquer, yes I will conquer them. Come on, let's conquer, oh I will conquer, rise up and conquer them. I am a man, I am a champion, I am a warrior. So who are you to tell me that I cannot make? Who are you to tell me that I am not the greatest thing that God ever created?
Good morning, Grenada, Carriacou, and PT Martinique. You're listening to Hard Talk Grenada. A very special good morning to those of you joining us on 97.5 City Sound FM, 89.5 CRFM, 92.9 Sister Al Radio broadcasting from Hillsborough, Carriacou, and of course 94.9 We Noise Radio out there in Brooklyn, New York. A very special good morning to all of you joining us on the live video, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's on Facebook. We are always happy to have you. Of course, it is a beautiful, beautiful morning in the Spice Isle as per usual. This morning, some of us woke up with a sense of relief, with a smile on our face, because we were able to go out on the beach this morning. Some of us. I wasn't able to take advantage of that opportunity as yet, but I definitely will as soon as the opportune time presents itself. But of course, we are grateful for the small mercies. We are moving slowly into a little bit of normalcy. We are able to move around a little bit more freely now. We are able to enjoy some of the amenities that we wouldn't have access to under the quarantine. So of course we are grateful for that, right? And of course we must continue to be vigilant. We must continue to ensure that we are following the guidelines. We must continue to ensure that whatever we do, that we do it with care and that we do it with caution. All right. So it is really, really important for us to not take too much advantage of the situation. Now we are a little late this morning. Of course, we had the press conference by the Ministry of Works and, of course, the committee responsible for construction and the reintroduction of the construction sector, people being able to go out and do their jobs as they are supposed to. I hope that all of you who had questions in the past day or the couple hours after the Prime Minister's speech had an opportunity to listen and got your questions answered. All right. Now, this morning, we are going to get to a very touchy place. There has been a lot of talk, a lot in the past few days about the Grenadians who came in on the cruise ship. And I will speak on it. I've spoken on it before on my own personal platform and gave my own personal opinion of what I believe and what I think about the whole situation. But now, I am going to give my professional opinion, right, on how I feel or the professional aspect of that entire issue. Of course, now I'm a little calmer, For those of you who were on my live video and saw me in a state of emotion where I felt, I was very upset, I must say, at the whole issue. I still am very displeased with how the entire thing went down. But I want to add some light to this whole issue. Now, apart from the location that they were placed, there were some issues leading up to that, all right, where accusations had been made about the Grenadian government not wanting to accept them, We heard our famous propagandist in Grenada making headway with it on his program. And I want to add some clarity to that entire situation. At no point in time did the government of Grenada refuse the cruise ship members. And it was the same young lady who went about making the poor decision of that video. It was that same young lady who, in a voice message, made this accusation about the government of Grenada that led to other people, of course, picking it up and running with it, because we're real famous for that in Grenada. We like to pick up things and run with it, without even taking time to understand exactly what happened. So here is what happened. When the boat, there was an itinerary, or better still, Mr. Technician, do we have that voice note that we can play? All right. I'll play it from my WhatsApp. I'll put up my WhatsApp and I'll play it. Because I can speak of it, But you know what? It's always better when it comes straight from the horse's mouth. When you get the information, and I want to pull it up for you to hear, the actual facts, what really happened when that boat, because we all know that it was an unexpected stop. And a lot of people are saying that, well, they knew they were coming, they were expecting them. Yes, but the minister did make it very clear that no official date was given yet for when they were supposed to come. But we'll get back to that point. And I want to play for us a voice note. And that voice note came from one of the young ladies in quarantine. So just take a quick listen to this.
Morning. This Kim Jones fella is just...
All right, just give me a moment here, All right. Let's play this for you to listen to.
This Kim Jones fella is just a bag of worries. Because each and every one of us here knows, and even everybody on the cruise ship that we came from, knows that the itinerary that they had for the Caribbean started in Santo Domingo. After Santo Domingo, we went to St. Lucia. After St. Lucia, we went to St. Vincent, and then we came to Grenada. After Grenada is Barbados for a couple of days. We did not go to Barbados before we come to Grenada. And nobody threatened to drop us in Barbados and come here. What they wanted to do, they wanted to go to Barbados if the government of Grenada was not going to accept us on the 9th, because the whole itinerary stated that the ship will be in Barbados for a couple of days. So within that couple of days, if a green light was given, then after Barbados, they divert and drop us in Grenada and then go to Trinidad. But it so happened luckily that the green light was given, and immediately after St. Vincent, we came to Grenada. So I don't know where Kim get his jump up, I don't know where he get his palaver, but he's a drama man, he likes stupidness. So that alone is a lie and propaganda.
All right, and straight from the horse's mouth. See, I like to deal with facts, right? I like to ensure that the people that I address have the facts. Okay, so there was accusation by the same young lady who saw it fit to make a video. She accused the government of Grenada of refusing to take them. And that is the reason why they were out in the water there for so long and so on. That is utter nonsense. So even from the very beginning, we can understand that the main purpose, the sole reason that this young lady even began to talk was to start some sort of confusion. So let's take it from there. Let's look at it from that point of view. Now, there was an issue with, from what I understand, St. Vincent. And this is why they spent so much time in the waters of St. Vincent. They were supposed to come in at 10, I believe, or 8, is it? At 8 o'clock. And they came in sometime after 2. And the reason for this is because when they got to St. Vincent, or the waters of St. Vincent, right, there was one Vincentian national on the boat. St. Vincent refused to take the one Vincentian national, one single person. They refused to take that person because they said they were not ready to receive any of their nationals. So there was a back and forth between the cruise ship and the Vincentian government as to what to do with this Vincentian. Eventually, they decided, fine, what we're going to do is we're going to put them on the other boat, that boat that came in on Sunday. We're going to put them on that boat. That's what we're going to do, right? So the conflict was not between the government of Grenada and the cruise ship. The conflict was between the Vincentian government and I wouldn't even call it conflict. I would say breakdown in communication was between the Vincentian government and the cruise ship in regards to that one Vincentian national that was on the boat with our 19 that needed to disembark. And St. Vincent said they were not ready to take any Vincentians at that time. So what they did is they transferred that Vincentian to the boat that had 90 of them that was supposed to disembark the following day. All right? And those are the facts. So let's deal with some more facts, right? Because I like facts. Good. So you get to Grenada, you have to understand. And nobody is disputing. Let me make that absolutely clear. Nobody is disputing whether the room is suitable for anybody or not. Or whether the room is clean enough for anybody or not. That is not what is being disputed. What is being disputed is the manner in which it was brought across. Now, mind you, and that's what upset me the most in this whole thing, apart from the food, and that's another topic that I don't even feel like I want to touch. But apart from that, you have an issue where the government of Grenada was called the day before, hours before you could call it. Hours before, on the weekend of a quarantine, well, on the eve of a quarantine weekend, right? You have an issue where the government is called right before, and told, okay, we want to bring these people in because we're not going to St. Vincent anymore. We're not going to Barbados anymore. We want to drop them off before we go to Barbados. And that is fine. If that is the case, there are a lot of things that need to be finalized before these people arrive. Okay? And as the minister said and apologized for, and that's why I'm not a minister, because I would never apologize. I'm sorry. As she apologized for, the ball was dropped. We can understand that because even in our own personal life, sometimes we forget to do things. It happens. We're dealing with people. We're dealing with individuals. So you have to appreciate the fact that they understood that it was their mistake and they apologized. Now, all of this backlash, all of this melee, all of this back and forth, all of this judgment of people calling them ungrateful and all of that could have been avoided if the young lady had just used the channel available for her to get the results that she needed. So she on a live video complaining about this is what we come back to. What did you leave? That is the first question. This is what we come back to. Okay, fine. You are not comfortable with your accommodation. You are not happy with your place of stay. What is the most appropriate thing for you to do? Is it for you to jump on a live video? No, the most appropriate thing for you to do would have been to communicate with the officials that were right downstairs. Dr. Martin and his team, they were right downstairs. Nadma and their team, Sylvan McIntyre and his team, they were right downstairs. The bus that had dropped these people off had not even left the compound as yet when all of this would have transpired. Now, I communicated with an individual that is at the quarantine center right now who indicated that when she got there, her bed sheet had a little stain on it, right? A little mark on it. You know what she did? She communicated with the people downstairs. Her AC was not working. She communicated with the people downstairs and they sent someone to her room. One of them went to her room and they fixed her issue. She got a new sheet. They brought the remote. They fixed her AC. You understand? She didn't have to go on social media to get results. She used the correct channel in the same way that individual, if she felt like the accommodations were beneath her, then she would use the correct channels, and go to the officials that were right downstairs. And that is my problem. And I think that is a problem that most Grenadians have. It's not that she complained. It's not that she doesn't have a right to complain. But it's that the manner in which it was done. It's basically, you know, sometimes we say, I ain't mean to be disrespectful, but you go and you tell the person something disrespectful. It's in the same breath. You're saying, I ain't mean to be ungrateful. But everything that you say after that is ungrateful. You understand? It's like putting into a sentence, I don't mean to hurt your feelings, right before you hurt somebody's feelings. It's the same concept. Communication is key. Communication with the right channels. Communication with somebody who can fix your problem. That is what is key. Because at the end of the day, the same people who she went on social media and bash, who she created that video to bash, those are the same people who had to go and fix her problem anyway. So why not just use the correct channel, go down the steps, and make your complaint, make your dissatisfaction known in a respectful manner. And that is my problem. And I think that is a problem of most Grenadians. You know, a lot of Grenadians were very skeptical of their return. They were wondering, well, should we have them here? Should they come back? What should we do? They were skeptical. But we have to take into consideration the fact that a lot of sacrifice was made. You know? And as the person on the live said, it's true. Where is the video that says thank you? That's my problem. So we understand that the accommodation was not suitable and all of that. I'm sure that issue has been fixed, right? I am sure that the cleaner, well, not sure, I know for a fact that the cleaner went there. I am absolutely sure that the cleaner went there because the cleaner communicated with the young lady, and I'll tell you what the young lady tell her. Mean care one of them had to say. That was her response. And that's reliable source. I ain't coming here and say nothing that I cannot back up. That was her response. You know, the cleaner who came on Monday to clean that room, you know what she said? She said she explained to them that they had pre-cleaned. And let me tell you all something. Those of you who going around saying that the place didn't clean and nasty, dirty place and all of that, let me make something public knowledge. That compound has not been used by students for about a year now. Which means, and we all know what an abandoned place look like, which means that if no prior cleaning had been done, the place would have been in worse condition. You understand? The place would have been in worse condition. Now, the cleaner said that they had gone in, they cleaned the place, you know, sprayed, locked it up, because there was an agreement that this week, and that was 2 weeks ago, so they had an agreement that in 2 weeks they would go back and they would clean the place pending the arrival of these people. We know it's dry season. We all know where the area is now thanks to that video, which means that the security of these individuals have been compromised. And compromised in the sense that people have already been issuing threats, that people have already been heckling them, that security had to be amped up yesterday to protect them, all because one person find two fly on a bed. And let's be realistic about it. That this entire situation was blown too far out of proportion. That a simple communication, that a simple walk down the stairs to say, Dr. Martin, my room has XYZ problem. How can I get it fixed? All of that could have prevented all of the backlash, because we had to understand. Social media is a social village. In a social village, you have, just as in a country, people with their own opinions, their own ideology, their own feelings about certain things. When you put your business on social media, you put it out there for people to judge. All right? So when you receive whatever backlash, whatever response that you get as a result of it, you kind of just have to take it and cool it in it, because nobody can tell you put it there. You put it there. You understand? So you have to be cautious in the things that you do. Make right decisions, because every decision has a consequence. Every decision has a consequence, and you must take responsibility for your decisions. We are too accustomed to pointing fingers and casting blame, that when something happened, oh, well, I didn't mean to. But you made a mental decision to do it. And I have in studio with me to join in conversation Mr. Bola. Mr. Bola, good morning.
Good morning to you, Ms. Duncan, and good morning to your listeners.
All right. Well, Mr. Bola, I'm sure that you heard me from all the way out the door, because this is an issue, and Mr. Technician, Mr. Bola is not in the camera, so just nice or something.
Well, I'm in the studio. Where are in the camera?
People need to see your face.
No, I have my mask, you know.
And that nice creative mask you have on your face.
Yeah. I am obeying the protocols, Miss Duncan.
Wonderful. And especially since I'm not wearing mine, it's absolutely wonderful that you're wearing yours.
And I just don't understand why you're not wearing yours.
I'm so accustomed to being in the studio, without
all
anybody.
Alone. Yeah.
That it kind of happened that way. But I was explaining to the people the turn of events that led to this entire situation with the cruise ship members, and how simple communication could have resolved this issue in a timely manner, because the officials, as we understand, were right downstairs. She could have simply walked down the stairs and spoken to the individuals to get her issue resolved, but she made a mental decision, an adult decision, to post a video, and received backlash as a result of it. Now, people are saying that Grenadians don't have a right to call her ungrateful, that Grenadians don't have a right to behave in that manner, but you have to understand.
But some people are saying
that.
Okay.
Because the majority are very upset. The majority see it as ungrateful. I myself see it as ingratitude, because you did not even bother to say thank you first. You did not even bother to say we appreciate the fact that you guys made the extra effort to bring us home. You did not even appreciate the fact that out of the blue, at a now for now notice, the government said, just as St. Vincent said, we're not ready to take anybody today. Grenadian government could have said, we're not ready to take anybody either, but they understood that these people wanted to come home. And they made the decision to bring them in, even though every single detail was not double checked before they returned. The plan was in place to do it. The time did not permit them that. But at the same time, it is the gratitude that matters. I have a saying that says, and I posted it to social media, and it says, our foundation, our background, where we come from. And let me find my exact quote. But Mr. Bola, I was very disappointed, because I expected better of our people. I expected at least a little bit of gratitude, especially due to the fact that government was not obligated. And I want to say this: while they are all Grenadians, while they are Grenadians, and the government is responsible for its people, yes, but government was not obligated to do what they did.
No, they wasn't.
They were not obligated, and I want people to understand that. You are a Grenadian. You have a right to your country, but the government does not have an obligation to give you everything you want.
Yeah,
people must understand that, right? The administration is there to make policies, to guide, to set guidelines and all of that. But they are not obligated to give you everything you want. People must understand that we go out there and we make lives for ourselves because we are the ones responsible to ourselves. We are the ones obligated to make ourselves happy, to improve our livelihood. We are responsible for that. So my quote says, what you want for your life and what you have access to in life are very different things. However, you can use what you have and turn it into what you want. Do not allow the blessings and opportunities that you are granted become the basis of your thinking. Let your humble beginnings guide you and your achievements motivate you.
Well said, Duncan.
And that's it.
Well said. I mean, if most of us can pattern our lives from what you've said there, it can make a lot of difference. And if I can add my 2 pence, as I would say in our local parlance, to what you're saying, I think that video, I saw it, I looked at it, I saw some of the comments, not all of it, and I did have conversation with quite a number of people. And like you have explained, some people are really very, very, very upset and have said some pretty nasty things. I plead for forgiveness, but I hope the young lady or the group of ladies or men, if they are involved, or whoever thought of the idea of doing the video and posting it, should have reconsideration for what they did and to understand. You know, in the army, there is a regular saying that you comply and then you complain.
Yep.
So you're given an order, you comply with it, and then you complain about it. So I once asked, because I had the good fortune of spending a bit of time in Taiwan, 6 months in Taiwan, doing a bit of studies. And we were at a military college then. And I want to ask the general, or one of the tutors, who was a general anyway, should you be given the order to shoot someone who turns out to be your mother or your father? What do you do? You say you comply and then you complain. So you shoot and then you say to your senior officer, well, you know, that woman was my mother, you know, or that man was my father. Now, we are not down to that kind of a strict orders in Grenada. We are a democratic society. The Constitution allows us freedom of speech and freedom of movements and all those freedoms that we have. But with all of that, there is a certain level of responsibility. Yes? And the fact that you mentioned communication, that has changed over the years. The onset of social media has caused a lot of us to believe no longer we must relate to one another and we must explain. And the way of communicating now is putting it out to the world. Social media. Everybody must see, everybody must be in the know, everybody must be given an opportunity to comment. And the situation, as explained by the Minister for Tourism, who was one of the lead persons, along with the Minister of Health and whoever else was on that team, who has been negotiating with the cruise ships for many, many, many weeks. And they too has been negotiating with Carriacou, because there was one time when the suggestion was floated around as a Carriacou idea that all of the workers from the region may go to one of the islands. Barbados was suggested, you know, as an option where they could all be housed and quarantined in the same place coming off the ship. There was one time the suggestion floating around that maybe all of these cruise ship workers from the region can get to Florida, Miami, most likely, and a plane or several planes could have been chartered and do the run. And so there was a lot of forward and backward, you know, there was a lot of conversation happening. So it was not something where just like that, well, they end up coming at a time when they were not expected, because based on explanation, it was between the 21st and the 25th. But they came much earlier. So the government still had a responsibility to accept. And so there are about 3 things that I want to really touch on and questions that I want to ask. When I saw the video, so the young lady was making the wrong, showing the pictures and talking. One, from what I saw, and maybe my eyes are not as good as it used to be. I no longer have 20/20 vision. But from what I saw, in my opinion, there was not much there to make this grand thing about. Yes? Understanding that this is a place where you had students living. They were paying $1,200 or $1,300 per month, I understand, to SGU to live there. Secondly, it has been locked down for a while. Thirdly, I learned, and I hope that is factual, that they would have cleaned the place, sprayed it up, and do what have you. So a couple of the flies and so that we saw lying on the floor and probably on the bed would have, that could have happened as a result of the spray and then lockdown. It's a building that is low on the ground, the leaves, the breeze is blowing, leaves and other things might accumulate. So I didn't think there was enough there to make much bigger do of. One. But that does not negate the right of the individuals to complain about something that they felt was not up to standard. And the ministry admitted and the minister admitted that they did not get the opportunity, and it was an oversight that they should have gone back maybe the day before, the morning, what have you, when the people were coming in. So it was a bit of a oversight, a little slackness, a missed opportunity on the part of the ministry, and they have accepted that, right? That's one. The second thing I want to know is that in the video, the young lady that was commenting said, oh, she doesn't want to sound ungrateful, but it was exactly what she was doing, a very ungrateful deed. So my question is, if you don't want to sound ungrateful or you don't want to be ungrateful, and you did not do it as a means of being ungrateful, why then did you do it? What was your motive?
Yeah.
Yeah? What is it you was trying to achieve? Was it because you wanted to be malicious? Was it because you wanted to put the government and the ministry in a bad light? Was it because you had some political axe to grind? Because you said it was not to be ungrateful.
Yeah.
So that I understand, and maybe accept that you don't want to be ungrateful. You're grateful for the fact that you can come home and, what have you. So please tell us why you did it, because it was not because of ungratefulness. The third thing is that this is what I'm getting from my 9,500. The minister clearly said in early conversation and negotiations, they made a request to the liners, to the cruise ship, to pay a sum of $100 a day, if they can, because they gave the overall cost, what it will take to quarantine someone for 14 days to provide all the amenities and so, which was not just a Grenada request, but a regional request, which the cruise ship said we'd look into it, and the possibility was they may pay something. But when it came down to crunch time, they dropped the people off and decided, no, we're not paying anything, we're not contributing anything. So the government has to foot the bill. Now, if from what the lady said, it gave the impression to all and sundry who look that she or her employers or someone on her behalf paid $9,500 and she expected better for that, I would like her to do another posting, another video, and to tell us if she paid, who she paid, and who collected.
Yeah.
Because in my mind, if you did, somebody has that money and they must make it work for you. Now, if you didn't pay, or nobody didn't pay on your behalf, please apologize to the Grenadian public and to the government of Grenada.
Yeah.
I think that's the correct thing to do. Yes? There was another one in the background. You could hear her saying, oh, mommy, I'm sorry I left the cruise ship because this situation is whatever. Now, as far as we know, and the information that has reached the government of Grenada, is that these workers had up until a certain time in May to disembark from the ship. Because generally in June month, the month of June, these cruise ships go on dock. That's where they go and get cleaned down, serviced, what have you, because the new season starts about October month.
Correct.
If there could be a new season this year, we don't know yet, right? So they will be going into for the repairs, internal, external, engine, whatever they have to do, they service it. And if these people did not get off on or before that due date when they are supposed to lock down, they were not only going to put them off the ship, but they would have been dismissed. So they no longer would have had any job security. They would have been fired, so to speak, for common knowledge, because they had to get rid of them somehow. Where would they have been when that time comes? If the government of Grenada, if the minister and the ministry and the other teams that were working did not get up and put the protocols in place and accept them. Yeah. So when she's saying I should have remained on the ship, I wonder for how long and where she would have been if government did not accept them.
But I have a question, Mr. Bola. You've traveled. I've traveled, you've traveled. and maybe I grew up different from these young ladies. I don't want to judge, but if I go into a guest house and I walk into the room and there's a little dust or so on, how I grew up, I didn't grow up with any privilege. Therefore, I don't feel like anybody needs to rush to my needs, especially if it is something that I can attend to myself. So I walk in the room, there's a little dust in the room, there's a broom and a dustpan there, I sweep up, I'll quarrel in my head maybe, and say, well, I pay for that room, how come it a little
Or you
dust
can
there?
even lodge a complaint.
Or I can lodge a complaint. But
Yeah.
never will I ever make people feel that they are obligated to make me feel a certain kind of way. You know, I didn't grow up with any privilege, so maybe I think differently. I always learn to be appreciative for what I am given first and foremost. It don't mean nobody could treat me any kind of how. Of course not. I wouldn't allow it. But at the same time, if nobody is deliberately doing me an injustice, I won't make them feel like they have done some great wrong.
Well,
you know?
someone once said, we may all be in the same storm. I saw it posted somewhere, but not in the same boat. And that is why I said earlier on, the question that I ask myself and I'd like to place to the young lady is, if you're not doing it because of ingratitude, why are you doing it?
Yep.
Please tell us. We'd like to know. Now, I want to still use this situation to say something else. Now, you have a government that has to figure out where and how it would raise the necessary funding to ensure that the Ministry of Health continue to get priority and get all that it should be getting, to make sure that it's capable of dealing with and handling COVID-19 in terms of test kits and every other thing, protective suits and every other thing that they need to have. Make sure that your ambulances are up and running. Think about the poor doctors and nurses who are on the front line.
Yeah.
And some of them for a week or two can't even go back to their homes.
Yep.
They work and have to remain in some little room and get a little something to eat because they can't go back into the environment with the family until 2 weeks' time when they can get 2 or 3 days break.
Yeah.
They don't complain. I very much doubt that they get extra funds or extra pay, because the time that we are in, the situation that we are in, demands that they put more out. And from the onset, it has been said that everyone, to beat COVID-19, it must not be an individual, not a ministry, not a minister, but all of us doing our part.
Yeah.
Was that the part that these returning workers from the cruise ship had to play? To just post a video saying that they are being treated unkindly? And I don't think there was. I don't think in any way anyone had an intention to treat them less than human.
But let's look at it this way, Mr. Bola. Here we are in a situation where most people have been asked to self-quarantine, to go to their homes and to self-quarantine. Do you really feel that if the government had no appropriate place to put them, they wouldn't let them go home and quarantine? Do you think that the government is so bad in their thinking that they would deliberately house them in a dirty, unclean space as opposed to sending them home? I mean, people need to think about this and look at the thing logically, because there are a lot of people on social media saying, if it was me, I'd never stay in there. And if it was me, I'd making real noise and more noise than that. But for what? What are you making more noise for? And then, as you said, what do you hope to achieve by doing that? Especially when your line of communication is in the same building as you.
Open, but more than that, my understanding is that based on the protocol established for these people, their family members was given the permission to visit.
Yes.
Once they're wearing their mask, and they would not gather in the crowd, and they will keep the physical distance. They can bring them food. They can bring them anything. So while, yes, they have been isolated from the rest of the public, under managed visiting rights, family members could come. So if you felt that you had a bed sheet that you didn't so like or desire, just like you made a video, you could have called home.
Yeah.
You could have said to mommy, said to auntie, said to your sister, look, we are here where they have provided for us, but the shits are not clean enough. Or whatever have you. I've heard the minister said that they have procured refrigerators.
Yeah.
They have procured washing machine and dryers. They have cleaning materials. They were all there. What is our role? Who is responsible for our lives?
Yeah.
Do we sit like babies and expect every single thing to be provided for us? And I hope no one doesn't feel that we think people don't have the right to speak out, that people don't have the right to point out if something is not correct. But how do you do that? There is a correct, or there is a proper, and there is an improper way of doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
And it begs the question, because we have evidence to show that that was not the first time that that particular individual would have made statements contrary to what was factual.
Yeah.
Because while the government was in negotiation, or the team responsible for that in negotiation with the cruise liners, and trying to make ready what was necessary to accept them and to put the protocols in place, the very individual went on a program we all know called Ride Along.
Yes.
And said much about what wasn't happening without fuss.
She said they felt abandoned and they just wanted to come home.
That's all they wanted to do, come home, and they felt abandoned. Without first asking the authorities, where are we? What is happening? And at that time, it is my understanding that there was someone in their crew, among them, on the ship with them, that was in constant communication with the team and was aware of what is happening and would have been updating them on procedures that was being followed and taken. And even with all of that happening, decided to go contrary.
Yeah.
What is your motive, young lady?
Yeah.
Yes? Hours before you landed in Grenada, maybe, I don't know if Miss Duncan feels that she wants to play a clip of a voice note that you sent, giving again incorrect information, inaccurate information about what was happening.
I have the voice note, you know. I wonder if I still have it, boy. Yes, I have the voice note of her accusing the government of Grenada of not wanting to take them. And I will play it. And I'm playing it just to show people that there are many sides to a story.
Of course there are
many sides to a story. And we must always remember that one side could never be, it could never always be the right side, you know, because something must lead to something else. There must be some circumstance. And let me see if this is the voice note here.
Okay, guys, so the guy who did the chopping, his name is...
No, that's the wrong one. I have so many voice notes in my chat. And I'm hoping I'm able to find it, to pull it up for you to play. Because, you see, behind every decision, there is a motive. People don't just make motiveless decisions, right? There is always a motive. So either your motive might be to discredit somebody, to bring out a lie, whatever that motive might be. There is always a motive behind every decision. And Mr. Technician, if you have it, if you could send it for me again, that would be great. I don't even remember where I got it. I get so much voice notes with so many things happening, you know, but I mean, there's always a motive. So as you correctly said, what was the motive of her? Because, and these three things happened within days of each other.
Yes.
It's not over a long period of time. And I even had the liberties of going onto this person's social media page and looking at a video of her lounging on a chair on the cruise ship, saying how she is enjoying life. There are no guests, and she's just enjoying life and enjoying freedom, right? And this happened in April. So between the middle of April to now, what happened?
You know, and I don't want to belabor the point, but we keep talking in Grenada, and the officials keep begging of us to live up to our part of the responsibility, because government can only do so much. And I was making the point that while government still has to procure all things for medical needs, there are so many people still in this country that at the end of the day do not know where the next meal for tomorrow is coming from.
Facts.
The Ministry of Social Development has been out there based on contacts that was made with them, based on what they know, based on information they receive, trying to help people. There is not a bottomless pit of money in this country. The Prime Minister in his address said for only April month, the shortfall in revenue collection was in excess of $30 million. So it means that there are so many people and so many other things that has to be done that government now has to prioritize.
Yep.
Getting a place and being able to feed you and to house you comes with a cost. My understanding is that with the numbers, I think there should be overall 84.
Expected 84 out there expected to return, but
Right.
only I think 40 something
Something
of
here
them
for now,
that
right?
have, yeah.
Now, a figure of $200,000 was quoted. I don't know if that means to cover all of the 84 or just the 40 something that we have. That needs to be verified.
Also, I want to, not to cut you there, but I want to break down that $9,000. And I had questions about it as well. Why is it $9,000 and so on?
$9,500.
$500. What happened? Let me explain quickly. That $9,000, $500 is a subdivided amount. So what happened? The government of Grenada would have done an overall tabulation of what it would cost for them to come, for food, whatever they need, right? Or whatever.
All costs.
All costs. And that includes overtime of security guards, nurses and doctors that are on call to deal with any situations that may arise, transportation to get them to and from wherever they need to go, whether it's for testing or so on. All of that has been incorporated within the cost. So once the government had that overall cost and estimated the amount of people that needed to come, they did a subdivision and attached a cost to each person. And that is what happened. So it wasn't an issue where each person, they say, okay, well, food for that person will cost $500, and then that's not what happened. It was a total cost that was subdivided, broken up, and attached to each individual person. And that is how the $9,500 came across. And I hope a lot of people who are asking questions about it understand that they didn't just sit down and pull a number out of a hat to say $9,500. And we know it sounds like a lot, but when you put it against the backdrop of $200,000, then you can understand how they arrived at $9,500. But Mr. Bola, I have the clip here, you know.
Okay.
So let me play it for you.
I hope that's the correct one.
Hard and trying to make it. You know, it's like back home when you can provide for your family. We all on this ship, we're supposed to be heading from St. Lucia to Grenada, but due to the restriction of the government not giving us entrance or entry into our country, which is becoming challenging because the captain is even getting frustrating for him. On Tuesday, one of the Grenadians on ship who actually know the Minister of Tourism called her, and she put her actually on speaker. So while she was speaking to her, she started asking questions about the news released on what was going on with the article about the money for quarantine, and she was speaking to her and telling her that she find that was too much. You understand? Because it was like 9,500 EC for one person to keep them for the 14 days of quarantine. At the same time, the captain arrived. So he was listening the whole conversation. He took information. He went out to gather, to the high authorities about the situation. Today, we had a meeting with the captain, the hotel general manager, the head of medical, and the HR. And the whole thing about it, he was saying that it's very disappointing because we so close from home, yet so far away. We'll be docking in Barbados for a couple of days. Well, he's saying that the high-ranking authorities, they're negotiating with the government on what is the problem. They don't want to accept us home. Moreover, a couple of days, about 2 days or 3 days ago, he spoke to us about the issue. He said that he sent an email, a personal email to the Minister of Tourism, which she said she never received. And we've been out here more than 2 months, right? More than 2 months we've been out here. And it's becoming really frustrating and challenging. It's hard because we have no social life. They say social distancing, we have to stay in a room, quarantine. You know the kind of mental torture, the kind of mental issue that can actually affect us being on the ship here. I mean, CDC have a recommendation. For this thing to show up, you have to stay at least 14 to 21 days before it actually surfaces for anyone to know if you have COVID-19. We've been out here more than 21 days. And if we as Grenadians cannot return to our own but country, and other nationalities could come in and private jet anytime, any day, how are we supposed to feel? Actually, it's really hot in us right now. And we just came from a meeting. It's over and beyond. They need to do something. And I know for a fact, you can reach them. Your voice is being heard. They don't really care about us. They don't really care, because if they really love us as Grenadians, they would try as much to get us home, regardless what. But we're just stranded outside here. We need to get home. Please do something. Help us. We need to get home.
And that was the individual that made the video. Those were her comments, right? And those comments were made a couple of days before the cruise ship actually spoke to the Grenadian government and said, and just so we get this clear, there was no individual communication with each island to say, okay, well, we want to bring your people home XYZ time, until a decision was met by the CARICOM team. There was a CARICOM team that was responsible and that was negotiating for the repatriation of all of the CARICOM citizens. It wasn't just a one island decision. It was a CARICOM decision. They met with the heads of the cruise ship and they decided that during this period, we are going to repatriate our people. Right? And that was the decision that was made. And then individual governments were informed that this is the date that we plan to bring the people home. Now, as she said, they're supposed to go in Barbados, which means she had the itinerary, which means that she understands that they came here out of the blue and on short notice, because they were supposed to go to Barbados and spend a few days. That was always the plan. But the government of Grenada were ready to take their people. They understood that their people had had enough of being on that cruise ship, and they were ready to take them home. You know, the first thing that should come out of your mouth after a voice note like that is gratitude. Gratitude. Nobody is saying you can't complain. Nobody is saying that you don't have a right to speak for what you think you deserve. But at the same time, gratitude must be first. Respect must be first. You can't, and the way they treated the food, Mr. Bola, I'm telling you, that upset me to the core. And it upset me because I know even in my own constituency, in my own village, that there are people who cannot make ends meet, who would be grateful for a sandwich to eat in the night and a box of juice. You understand? But it was ungrateful, and you have to give jacket. Nobody is saying that she couldn't complain. Nobody is saying that you know, treat people the way you want to be treated. Yes, but also be grateful for whatever small mercies are handed to you. Gratitude must come first. A thank you. Up to this very moment, I'm quite sure that she would have received 3 square meals yesterday. I'm quite sure that she was able to see family members. I'm quite sure that, she's lounging in her room with her air condition blowing cold. I'm quite sure that her internet is working and up to speed. I'm quite sure she has all of these things, and not one video yet has submerged of her saying thank you. And that is ingratitude. That is what it is about.
Yep, we can go on and on and on about what should and shouldn't happen. I just feel that the young lady now has another opportunity to say to the Grenadian people, because, she did not just attack the government. She probably thought she attacked the government. But Grenadians felt hurt because the money that is being spent to keep she and all her friends and others in quarantine and provide meals, it's the taxpayers' money of this country.
Yeah. It's like a spit in the face to Grenadians saying we deserve better than you,
You understand my point? And I keep saying that all of us has a role to play. What role does she have to play in her own existence and survival? Government can't do everything for you. Government has no right to do everything for you. Government also doesn't have the right and the authority to put you in a place that is not fit for human beings.
Yeah.
But you were just there begging to come home. And a lot of what she said in the voice note is inaccurate.
Very inaccurate.
There's a lot of inaccuracies there. But you can hear her saying, please, we want to come home. And after everything was done, at very short notice, and the government always said, yes, it's our people, we have to accept them. We need to put the protocol in place because we're still concerned about COVID-19 and we want health to be maintained, and we do not want a reneging on what good that we already have done, and we have handled whatever we had quite well. We want to keep that going. So let's put the protocol in place. And you came in. At least say, thank you, Lord. Thanks to the people of Grenada, I am here. And then you say, but look, while I'm here and I appreciate that, I don't think this was proper. I do believe we could have done better here or there. Of course, none of us are the repository of all good and all knowledge. None of us is that perfect that we don't make mistakes. You could, I can, she did. But show that I appreciate it. There are some people who would be so happy that they are now finally home, where they can see friends and family and so, and looking forward to being able to socialize with them, as one of them said. But you need to follow the protocol and remain for 14 days.
I'll tell you this, Mr. Bola, and I'll share this with the general public because I don't think the minister would mind if I do. I spoke personally with the minister before and after the event. Before the event, the minister was so happy. And those of you who knows the Honorable Minister knows that these small things touch her.
Yes.
So she was on the point of bare emotion. The fact that they could do this for their fellow Grenadians, right? She was so happy. And then when I called her back after receiving the video to get a little insight on what possibly could have happened, where the breakdown could have taken place, I heard the hurt. I heard the raw emotion. I heard how sad she was at the fact that she had not only just left these people in such high spirits for something like this to happen. And she felt so hurt because she knew all of the people involved in dealing with this whole situation, in preparing for these people to come, the overnight calls, the overnight preparations that had to take place for the arrival of these people. She knew. And it really hurt her because I could hear it. And sometimes we have to take into consideration the small things, the people who would have made the sacrifices for you to receive what you received, even if it was not up to your standard. A sacrifice at some point by some ordinary Grenadian, from the person who went to buy the juice to the person who put the lettuce in the bread. Sacrifice was made, and for that, gratitude must be given, before you can even jump off your high horse to say, this is not good enough for me. And that is what we must take into consideration.
Well, I couldn't have said it better, Miss Duncan. I think you've nailed it. All of us. All of us. And let that be a lesson for the rest of us. It is not normal times.
Yeah.
It is not normal times. Things are different. And we did say here on this program, long before COVID came to Grenada, that it's going to be tough whether or not we find a case. Because what happens internationally, regionally, will affect Grenada. We are part of the world. Yes, we are nice as a rock, oil of spice, we are loving people, but we are not isolated from everyone else. A long time ago, they used to say that when the US and some of the larger countries sneeze, we catch the cold.
Yeah.
It still happens. And so we have to protect and insulate ourselves from these problems.
Yeah.
So we must work together.
Absolutely.
We must recognize the efforts of each other.
Absolutely.
We must be prepared to do our part, or else there is another wave to come that we won't survive. And this will be the economic wave.
Yeah.
There will be problems. Those who are in the know believes that it will take between 18 to 24 months. 18 to 24 months before we can really see this country returning to positive growth again economically.
Now, Mr. Bola, I know that we are out of time, but quickly before we even bother to proceed, there is a video that I want us to play. We are all aware of Mr. Alan G.
Yes.
He was an entertainer on the cruise ship and would have he came in with the individuals.
Okay.
And this is what the gentleman had to say, and I want to play it quickly for everyone to hear.
I'm just taking this opportunity to say thank you to the Grenadian government for accepting us back home after our journey based on the COVID-19 coming on the high seas from our workplace to the beautiful Spice Island of Grenada. I must say that when we arrived at St. George's Harbour, the welcome that we received was fitting for a king. Anything besides that would have been an error. It was at the highest class and level. The sense of respect, appreciation, the love that Minister Steele and his team, the doctors, the nurses, NADMA and the Custom Department expressed to us. I couldn't find words to say how much we appreciate the efforts and the hard work that they put in to accept us as we make our way home. I am grateful and appreciative. Though I'm not surprised, it is the exact level of acceptance and appreciation I expected from my Grenadian people. I know that it was a lot of moving forward and backward and sideways, a lot of logistical thing has to put in place, and I cannot give you any other mark than A+. You were excellent. You made me feel at home. I felt love. I felt appreciated. The full works. All the T's was crossed and all the I's was dotted. And I want to thank the Grenadian government and the Grenadian people and the COVID-19 team that greeted us at the St. George's Harbour. You did it, just as I expected. Thank you very much for your kindness and your love, deep appreciation, enough respect. Let us work together as Grenadian people as we battle this pandemic. Together we can do it. And remember, we must love one another. We must love their neighbors themselves. We must be each other's keeper. One love, Grenada. Bless up.
Blessings.
I mean, is that a gentleman who is among the same crew?
Yes, he is.
What's a stark difference?
What's a difference?
As we have said, anyone can complain, but at least say thank you, comply, and then complain.
Absolutely.
Well, we thank the gentleman. I would like to thank him because he has shown a totally different picture to what we saw before.
Absolutely. And I mean, there are some parents who have been, on behalf of their children, expressing gratitude to the government of Grenada for getting their kids home. What I do understand, though, and I want to make a point of this here, is that I've received complaints from individuals there that this same young lady has been heckling, she has been threatening, she has been throwing comments at the same said young lady that she mentioned in the voice note that has been in communication with the minister and so on. She has been heckling and making her very uncomfortable and making others uncomfortable there too. So if the authorities can look at that and find a way to put a stop to it, that would be wonderful, because some of them are afraid to speak out, especially to the stigma that has been attached to that group of individuals as a result of that poor judgment. A lot of people are afraid to speak out. A lot of people are afraid to say anything. But I've heard the complaints. I've spoken to the individuals, and I would hope that the authorities deal with it respectively, and that they deal with it urgently, so that these people can feel. I mean, it's not easy coming out of the confinement of a boat and having to be confined in the place of a person who is constantly harassing you. I mean, that is a recipe for disaster, you know. So if they can attend to it, that would really be great. But for those of you who are here, the 40, how much ever of you, we're happy to have you home. I have friends who are still in the Philippines, who are still trying to find their way to Miami. The logistics is not working as they hope it would, and that is on the cruise ship end, to get them to Miami, to get them to their respective homes. But our fingers are crossed, and we really do hope that they are home soon. I'm eager to see my friends, honestly, just to know that they're here and that they're safe and that they're okay. And for those of you who are here, we appreciate you being here. A lot of us were at two different minds about you coming, you know, because we didn't know what to expect, honestly. But to be honest, we're happy that you are home. I don't have any daughters and sons in that place, but as a parent, I feel it for the parents who have their children home. Just knowing that your child is here and your child is safe puts your mind at ease, you know. So guys, we are happy to have you home, and feel free to send your videos of gratitude, to send your videos of thanks to the government of Grenada, to the people of Grenada, to those who have been rooting for you and cussing on all your behalf. You know, a lot of people cussing on your behalf, you know. But don't be afraid to send them. Don't let one bad mistake prevent you from doing something great. All right, but guys, we are out of time. Mr. Bola, do you have any closing words?
Just to say, following up on what you said, Ms. Duncan, while so many parents here at home in Grenada can feel a bit of comfort and some ease that the children are in the land, you know, maybe not in the home, but in the land, there are so many parents in Jamaica
oh boy, I don't even want
that
to.
can't feel that way, because the government of Jamaica refused to accept similar cruise ship workers who are now, as we understand, in Panama. Yes, because they couldn't go home. Why can't we be appreciative of what we have done? Stay safe. Let's continue to obey the protocols. Keep our physical distance. Wash hands regularly. Wear our mask at all time, in or out of the house, because you don't know who coming in your house with what. Don't be like Miss Duncan and say, oh, she they talking so she can't wait. I wearing mine and I'm talking well through it. So, my people, we want to be talking to you. We love you. Do what you're supposed to do, and we can continue to survive and beat COVID-19 together.
All right, guys, and it is in this vein that the Hard Talk family says, in whatever you say and whatever you do, be safe and be secure. We always want to be talking with you and never about you. Please enjoy the remainder of your day.
I'm just taking this opportunity to say thank you to the Grenadian government for accepting us back home after our journey based on the COVID-19 coming on the high seas from our workplace to the beautiful spice island of Grenada. I must say that when we arrived at St. George's Harbour, the welcome that we received was fitting for a king. Anything besides that would have been an error. It was at the highest class and level. The sense of respect, appreciation, the love that Minister Steele and his team, the doctors, the nurses, NADMA and the Customs Department expressed to us. I couldn't find words to say how much we appreciate the efforts and the hard work that they put in to accept us as we make our way home. I am grateful and appreciative. Though I'm not surprised, it is the exact level of acceptance and appreciation I expected from my Grenadian people. I know that it was a lot of moving forward and backward and sideways, a lot of logistical thing has to put in place, and I cannot give you any other mark than A+. You were excellent. You made me feel at home. I felt loved. I felt appreciated. The full works. All the T's was crossed and all the I's was dotted. And I want to thank the Grenadian government and the Grenadian people and the COVID-19 team that greeted us at the St. George's Harbour. You did it, just as I expected. Thank you very much for your kindness and your love, deep appreciation, enough respect. Let us work together as Grenadian people as we battle this pandemic. Together we can do it. And remember, we must love one another. We must love their neighbors themselves. We must be each other's keeper. One love, Grenada. Bless up.
Blessings.
COVID-19 spreads from person to person through the droplets that are produced when someone coughs or sneezes, which makes it easy to spread between people in close contact. Now let's get prepared to stay healthy.
To reduce your chance of catching or spreading COVID-19, practice these simple everyday preventative measures. Droplets can also land on surfaces, so ensure that you wash your hands frequently for a minimum of 20 seconds or sing the happy birthday song twice. Avoid touching your face, especially your eyes, nose, and mouth. If soap and water are not readily available, use an alcohol-based hand sanitizer with an alcohol content between 60 and 90%. 70% is ideal.
When you cough or sneeze, cover your nose and mouth with a flexed elbow or a tissue. Dispose of the tissue immediately and then wash your hands. If you notice someone has a fever and cough or other symptoms of respiratory illness, avoid close contact when possible. Let's all do our part to ensure that each and every Grenadian remains healthy. Our health is our collective responsibility.
Close to 40 applications already made for recommencement of construction work. We'll have details to this story and more in the national report. With the details to the news for Monday, May 11th, 2020, I am Rikisha St. Louis. The Ministry for Infrastructure Development and Implementation has already received 36 applications for recommencement of construction work since Sunday's announcement by Prime Minister Dr. The Right Honorable Keith Mitchell that work will resume in the construction industry this week. 23 of the 36 were walk-in applications, while 13 were made via email. This number does not reflect applications in other districts. The ministry says before recommencing construction work, contractors must be granted permission by the construction subcommittee before resuming work. During an exclusive interview with the GIS on Monday, a member of the COVID-19 Task Force for Construction, Marina Jessamy, who is also the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Infrastructure Development and Implementation, says contractors must submit a letter informing of their intention to reopen construction sites. The letter can be emailed to ps@moid.gov.gd and copied to cto@moid.gov.gd.
It is a very simple pro forma form, which indicate the name of the contractor, the location of the site, the number of workers to be involved in the project, what type of project it is. Is it a residential, commercial, excavation, etc. We would like to also advise that effective today, between Monday and Wednesday, or if it is necessary until Friday, contractors must prepare the site to become COVID-19 compliant.
Up to the time of the interview, PS Jessamy says she has received some 20 applications to reopen sites. She says, however, the physical distancing protocol and hygiene will have to be adhered to in the strictest of forms.
Physical distancing at minimum of 6 feet remain in effect. No work inside of 6 feet physical distancing is to be carried out. Now, there's discussion about that to say, depending on what they have to do, they might be very close to each other. In that regard, the discretion is that the workers must have the the personal protection equipment and try to stay in that less than 6 feet to do the work as quick as possible. Most of the contractors indicate to us that they will try to find a way to ensure that social distancing will take place. The workers must wear a mask or face covering. And also, they are required to use the hand washing station. So the safe hand challenge to wash your hands and use hand sanitizers remain in effect.
Before reopening, contractors and/or managers must ensure that there are proper recording systems in place for the attendants, workmen and women.
They must have a COVID-19 response plan in place. In case somebody starts to display symptoms, they must have that plan in place. They must complete an incident report if they suspect a case. And we know already, based on the information provided by the Ministry of Health, persons with high temperatures, persons who cannot breathe, once on site you see somebody displaying these symptoms, you must have that incident reported to the relevant authorities. They must maintain a sign-in register and detailed work schedule to understand the movements of all workers. Who came on Monday? Who came on Tuesday? The reason that is that if something happens and we need to facilitate the contact tracing, we know exactly the movement of that person.
The government of Grenada is gradually easing into a microeconomic framework as it continues to manage the COVID-19 pandemic. Addressing the nation on Sunday night, Prime Minister and the Chairman of Cabinet, Dr. The Right Honorable Keith Mitchell, described this as balancing the competing priorities that government faces at this time. Dr. Mitchell announced that effective Monday, May 11th, 2020, every day will be a designated business day. He says what this essentially means is that the businesses already granted permission to operate can do so on every day of the week, and the actual days and hours of operation will be determined by individual establishments, but they must be within the stipulated business hours of 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. This does not apply to businesses that have not been approved to resume operations. The sectors resuming operations this week include construction, real estate services, laundromats, landscapers and gardeners, flower shops, hire purchase stores, and companies offering payday loans. The Prime Minister says approval has also been given for limited ferry services between mainland Grenada and the sister islands, but external borders will remain closed for the time being.
Borders were closed to prevent the spread of the virus and to save lives. And for now, we must maintain that status quo. At the most recent emergency meeting of CARICOM heads and OECS heads, we collectively agreed to start gradually relaxing the restrictions for travel, as the pandemic in the region has been largely contained. Governments, airlines, and the hotels are now finalizing the details of this phased reopening, assuming that the requisite protocols are in place. We therefore expect to open our borders in the first week of June. I assure you, fellow Grenadians, we'll not move unless we are satisfied that adequate health and safety guidelines are in place. This same rationale also influenced the decision to cancel Spice Mass 2020, because we simply cannot compromise the health, safety, and well-being of our people.
Dr. Mitchell also added that buses have not yet been approved to resume transporting the general public. He said, and I quote, government is working with stakeholders to develop appropriate physical distancing and hygienic measures that will guide the resumption of this service. An official announcement on this will be made in the coming days, unquote. This is the National Report. We'll have more news after the break.
Distance makes the difference. Keeping the nation positive, we can do this together by uniting apart, reaching out to you at home and in the diaspora every Wednesday night from 8 to 10 right here on GIS. Join me. If we hold on together, our dreams will never die. Be a part of flattening the fare curve and replacing it with hope and positivity, sharing the stories and the expectation of a brighter tomorrow. We can beat this virus. Remember, we are in this together. Distance makes the difference. DMD, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. here on GIS. Sharing is caring.
Welcome back. Grenada's Minister for Tourism and Civil Aviation says they have no intentions of showing disregard to anyone, especially citizens of this country. In a statement issued on Sunday, Honorable Clarice Modeste Kerwin admitted that while there was an oversight in doing a final check on the place of accommodation for returning cruise ship employees, every possible effort was made to ensure their comfort. The minister says discussions were held with Royal Caribbean Cruise Lines, Disney, and MSC to repatriate cruise ship workers who were due to return on May 21st and 25th, respectively, and so the search for accommodation began with input from the private sector. Protocol was also being established to manage the process, looking at mandatory quarantine, medical checks and testing, and 3 meals per day. With both quarantine and testing bearing a cost, the tourism minister said they agreed that the cruise lines would contribute $100 per day towards the quarantine. In addition to that, 2 other cruise ships in Caribbean waters were due to arrive on the weekend. Minister Modeste Kerwin says official contact was made with them on short notice and approval was given in spite of the late notice.
The established protocol was communicated and agreed to. Hours before the arrival of the first ship, we were informed that they would not pay the contribution to the quarantine. In the interest of our citizens, we said, bring them home regardless. No money has been paid to the Ministry of Tourism or government on behalf of any cruise ship worker.
The quarantine facility, which was made public as a result of a video appearing on social media over the weekend, is one that has been in use up until the closure of the St. George's University.
The facility had been inspected, cleaned and sanitized by a professional firm shortly after we were contacted by the 3 cruise lines mentioned before. We obtained washing machines, dryer, and 2 refrigerators through the kind courtesy of the private sector. Cleaning supplies were put in place. However, dust does gather quickly, and in the hasty preparation for the unscheduled ships, a final inspection was not done. We apologize for this oversight. It is never our intention to show any disregard to anyone, especially our citizens.
During his national address on Sunday evening, Prime Minister Dr. The Right Honorable Keith Mitchell reiterated that the government on one hand cannot deny the right of citizens to return home, but on the other hand, all returning nationals must understand that they can potentially spread the virus in the midst of a health crisis. He says government is now single-handedly bearing the cost of approximately $200,000 to provide the facilities for the returning cruise ship workers, since cruise lines have not accepted responsibility despite earlier agreements to do so. Finally in the news, the Grenada Technical and Allied Workers Union and the St. George's University Limited have affixed their signatures to the July 1st, 2018 to June 30th, 2022 collective agreement that will see salary increases and other benefits for employees at the St. George's University under the Grenada Technical and Allied Workers Union bargaining unit. Chief Negotiator Bert Patterson says despite the 2-year negotiating period, it was a calm one among both parties.
It has been lengthy negotiations, as is not abnormal in these situations. We did reach agreement just earlier this year or late last year. We did actually reach the agreement, but we couldn't sign the agreement for various reasons, including this pandemic crisis. We have just signed that agreement, and it's satisfactory. We must say that the St. George's University has been one of the premium employers in our consideration because throughout this crisis, they've been fully engaged with us. We are in constant communication. There are changes that may be respective only to this period that we're actually working on. So the two parties, the union and the school, are in fact fully engaged in trying to make this crisis as, let us say, tolerable as possible.
The workers, Mr. Patterson says, will be satisfied with the agreement signed as retroactive money will have to be paid dating back to 2018. He speaks of the percentage increase that will be applied to the salaries for the period July 1st, 2018 to June 30th, 2022.
Over 3 and 4% for each of the years involved, right? Some 3, some 4. So it was, as I say, satisfactory. We know that the SGU did have some good years. We know now that there's some uncertainty as to when the school will reopen. I believe people are looking at August for the new school year. But as I said, that is not dependent on anyone other than the virus itself. But there are plans in place to reopen as soon as it's possible.
The agreement, which was signed in the presence of Labour Commissioner Cyrus Griffith, is said to have additional benefits for workers.
For the workers who work not just Monday to Friday, but the workers who work on Saturdays and Sundays and who in fact have to take their days off during the week, we got things into the agreement that makes it not beneficial to them as such, but keeps them at the same, let us say, position as workers who work Monday to Friday, right? Meaning that on their second day off, they would be paid a premium, or they would be paid a higher overtime rate once they come into work on the second day of the day off than they are accustomed to.
That story just ended the national report for today, Monday, May 11th, 2020. Let's recap the top story. Close to 40 applications already made for recommencement of construction work. On behalf of the entire news team here at the Government Information Service, I am Rikisha St. Louis saying thank you for joining us. Until next time.
Stay up to date with all that's happening with the new National Party, NNP. Send us a message via text or WhatsApp on 405-8683 with your name, email, and constituency. Stay in the know with NNP. Get updated.